What's up, guys? This is Damien J from Bourbon Base and Barbells. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Jim Beam 7-Year. Gotta tell you, I've already had this bourbon and not very impressed. But for the sake of a review, I'm going to go ahead and sip this thing down for you and see if I can get some tasting notes, and then maybe do an interesting comparison. I do have a 7-year Heaven Hill bottle and bond that's opened. I do realize that that's 100 proof compared to 86, but we'll see where the journey takes us. So got it poured up here. The word on the street is that this is going to be replacing the Jim Beam Black, which makes sense. It's got a nice little black label on it. It is what it is. There's a cute little label that used to be up here at the top that I peeled completely off when I turned off this switch cap here. It basically said that it had, and I quote, hold on, I think I got it here, rich oak, vanilla, and caramel, which is interesting because my wife likes to say VOC, which is vanilla, oak, and caramel, sometimes cherry. So your classic 7-year, 86 proof bourbon. Let's just go ahead and take a sip and see what we see. It really smells like nothing. You really get in there, you get some vanilla, don't smell oak at all. A little bit of brown sugar, a little bit of baking spice, typical. Go ahead and take a sippy poo. I don't know if I'm just too big of a bourbon snob at this point, but I can really taste the water in 86 proof bourbons. That's mostly what I'm getting here. There's a little bit of a ethanol burn at the tail end of it, but it's as advertised. You get your vanilla, you get your oak, you get your caramel. There's a little bit of orange peel in there, I would say. Almost a butterscotch type flavor, which is to be expected. Again, I don't know how else to put it, and maybe it's just because I've been doing a lot of roast videos lately, roasting bourbon. But it kind of tastes like first year of college. It just tastes like rot gut 86 proof whiskey to me. Now, I realize there's going to be a lot of people that are going to like this bourbon a lot, and I'm not trying to say that Beam doesn't make good things. I love Booker's. There's some other things that I like, your Knob Creeks, things of that nature, but this is just not for me. It tastes very rot gut. I'm thinking right now it actually reminds me of Barton 86. It just has this really thin, cheap kind of flavor to it, which is to be expected. I mean, these things were going for, I think, $19.88 at Sam's Club. I had to pick this bottle up for about 26 bucks from my local, who just happened to get a few of them, and it's a pretty uneventful bourbon. I think what I'll do is I'll go ahead and kind of pit it against, some things that I know that are good, or at least one thing that I know that's good, and I have open, which is a 7-year Heaven Hill, and I got that guy right here in anticipation of me knowing that it was going to taste like Barton's. Guess what else I got? You got it. I got myself a Barton over here. Very old Barton. This is the 86 proof, and we'll pour myself some of this monster. I already know I'm going to regret this. Also like to point out, Barton, I'm not even sure what it is, and let me look it up. Let's see. All right, it says that it's about 4 to 6 years. And then we put it up right up against our 7-year. They are pretty stinking close in color, right? So this that's almost 6-year, this that's a 7-year, about the same color. If I turn it off into the light, I wanted to say that they were different, but they look about the same. Now here's a 7-year from Heaven Hill. Take a look at how dark and rich that is. Now I will say this, if you take a look, let's take a look at the legs here. See how that's just kind of thin, comes right off the glass, and this guy's definitely sticking around, so it's definitely got better legs to it, but otherwise I can't really see a distinction in the color. A lot more corn forward with this guy, and interestingly enough, the burn is in the front and then immediately dissipates, but it still tastes like really cheap bourbon. Pitting them against each other, Now I can taste there's a lot more oakiness. So that's where the 7-year is really shining through here. Honestly, about the same flavor profile, VOC. This one definitely has a bit of that corn kind of ethanol punch that you're getting up at the front end. Again, kind of as to be expected from, you know, your lower end bottom shelf whiskeys. It's a lot more caramel forward. Wildly unfair comparison. This tastes like a very good bourbon. This tastes exactly what it tastes like. It tastes like a $20 to $25 bourbon. This $15 bourbon, it's going blow for blow with this Jim Beam. Really can't tell the difference. Now, I gotta say, full disclosure, I'm a barrel proof guy. Anything that's under 100 proof, I tend to just kind of side eye and not care about. It's got to be a really exceptional bourbon. This at 86 proof just doesn't fit my flavor profile, doesn't fit my price point, doesn't fit any of those things. It's not that I'm being snobby about it. I just think that if you're gonna spend money on bourbon, that you should drink stuff that's a little bit better than bottom shelf. I don't think this is a little bit better than bottom shelf. I had a single barrel that I just reviewed recently of the Evan Williams. That one was 86 proof, I believe. It was way better than this thing was. Maybe I should have grabbed that and did that for the taste test instead. But that's a single barrel. It was almost 10 years old. It had a much better flavor profile, and it costed me roughly about the same amount. You know, that thing cost me about 29. I think after I walked out the door with it, maybe 33. This thing cost me 26. I think once I walked out of the door, it cost me, you know, about 29. So, you know, a $4 difference to get a bourbon that's just a lot better. It's a no-brainer. Again, this thing kind of tastes like just college. It tastes like you went to the bar and you just wanted to get a shot of anything just to get you there. Plenty of college nights, you drink Jim Beam and you're like good to go. And then you have that awful kind of rot gut feeling in the morning, the whiskey shits as we like to call them. Not a good time, right? So honestly, at the price point that it's at, $20, if you're one of those people that just kind of drinks to drink, have at it. If you're one of those people that drinks for pleasure, go ahead and pass on this thing. But as always, make sure that your bourbon is rare, your base is deep, and your barbell is heavy.